Governor Chafee today defended the necessity of paying the 38 Studios debt as essential for Rhode Island to continue its recovery from the recession and recoup taxpayers' money through legal efforts. Governor Chafee said, quote, "The candidates who can't understand these two obvious truths are unfit to be governor. The consequences of default would place Rhode Island as one of the lowest state bond ratings in the nation, and the industry would reduce Rhode Island to junk bond status. We have been told in no uncertain terms that the reaction to not paying our debt obligations will be severe and have adverse impact on Rhode Island. In addition, failure to honor our obligations would have harmful effects on the pending lawsuit." Governor Chafee added, "This push by Allan Fung and Ken Block to default is disheartening. We hear from their populist rhetoric that lacks any empirical research or credible support. Common sense dictates you pay your debts, however distasteful." And then he goes on to talk about how great he is. So immediately I said, all right, let's get a hold of Block and let's get a hold of Fung. I'll go right to this issue with Allan Fung, and we'll figure it out as we go with my old friend Allan Fung. Let's go to the Newsmaker line. So glad to see that you're on my line, Mayor.
How's it going, Dan?
Very well. So react to this.
You know what's very disappointing? The unfit for governor, the person that really is unfit to be governor is Governor Chafee, and that shows in his low approval ratings. He's the one not worrying about the taxpayers of Rhode Island, whether it's in a lot of decisions that he's made during the past several years. But even in this situation, he's worried about protecting the bondholders versus the taxpayers. So that's where, I see the whole conversation being extremely disturbing to me.
Okay. You don't pay the bondholders. Bondholders have to litigate. Sends a message to the marketplace that we are immoral in financial terms, thus impacts our general obligation bond rating. We go to junk bond status because Standard & Poor's and Moody's are threatening our lives here, and so you got to swallow it. I mean, that's his argument that, frankly, it could be Link Chafee and Allan Fung. It could be Dan Yorke and a guy at the bar. So go ahead and articulate your take on the why not to pay.
Well, there's a couple of things, because even the report that the governor commissioned takes, in my opinion, one missing factor. We haven't heard from a key player in this, and those are the bond buyers, those institutional investors. What would they do in this type of situation, if, Rhode Island doesn't pay back those moral obligations, which, by the way, as I've said before, are not a legal obligation. That's one of the key missing ingredients to that report. We've already heard from the rating agencies, but the bottom line is this, we should not be treating moral obligation debt the same as our general obligation debts, which have had voter approval. And these are some of the missing ingredients that I think the taxpayers deserve an answer to, and that's why we should not be paying these debts, regardless of whether anyone agrees with that 38 Studios loan guarantee in the first place, which I didn't.
So play it out for me. You're Governor Allan Fung. You're presiding over a state that did not make its first $12 million payment due to the bondholders to secure their investment in 38 Studios. Standard & Poor's and Moody's are having a field day with us. We're a triple B or junk. And now what?
And you know what, Dan? Here's where my experience comes in. I think I can, factually say accurately that I'm the only candidate that's in the race that has had experience inheriting a city with the junk bond status from a prior administration. And by doing what we have to do, just like what we did in Cranston, making structural changes, watching our budgets, watching our deadlines, we get the city back out of that junk bond status to the point where even now credit rating is A amongst all three rating agencies. We're getting good rates on our borrowing. So just that threat of junk bond status doesn't mean that the sky is falling. That's why I said what I said about the alarmist report that the governor is relying upon.
Well, it's interesting. Your comparison aside in the city, the truth is that this is a 6-year payout, right? At $12 million a pop. We could learn a lot about. We don't pay the first $12 million nut. All litigation hell breaks loose. And we might actually get some of the answers that we're looking for as depositions are at warp speed on 3 or 4 different levels, right? And so maybe in a year's time, all of a sudden some answers are coming to bear, And through default, we may actually get some truths, and through some truths, we may actually find out where the right responsibility for payment ought to be.
Absolutely, because when the governor issued that statement, I think some of that fault has to lie within his corner.
Well, there's no doubt that this guy watched that ball drop and then went, "Oh, told you so." Tell me about the politics of this. I said to Ken prior to the news, and I'll say to you, this must mean I don't know whether this is just some gubernatorial political Tourette's that we're dealing with here, or there's some other. I'm trying to think past the motive for this press release. Now, folks, you don't see the press release. We did link it out, by the way, on Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, Dan Yorke shows, so you can read the press release. But, in the middle of the day today, here we go. We've got the governor deciding to go after the two GOP guys. Look, if you guys had no juice, he wouldn't be sticking a little, finger in your rib cage here. So, what's it tell you?
No, and I can tell you what I'm disappointed in the governor's statement, but I also blame my opponent too, because my opponent, by running, as a moderate last time, helped put this guy into office. And when you take a look at, there's a reason why he's got one of the lowest approval ratings across the country. Take a look at the things that he's focused on, just like my opponent did, switched parties all over the place, focusing on holiday trees. Where are the priorities in this administration? And my opponent helped put this guy into office, in my opinion.
Here I am trying to put you two peas in a pod, and you turn it into a primary debate. I guess that's just the way it goes.
You've been asking for a primary debate, right? You called me missing on a milk carton. Here I am. I'm coming out slugging. I finished my budget, serving the taxpayers.
Oh, okay.
By the way, 3 years with no tax increase now, Dan.
Yeah.
This is the type of leadership that Rhode Island needs to turn this around, especially taking, the state and dealing with a mess like 38 Studios, all the other messes. It should be about the focus on the economy and getting people back to work.
I guess what I was expecting to hear is that, Dan, you know what? Truth is, whoever wins that, Ken and me probably will be the governor. But you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. Today was a new day. And so I appreciate you dialing in. But let's make that appointment, all right?
All right. We'll set that up, Dan.
All right, Alan. Thank you. Mayor Allan Fung from Cranston. Let me say this. I am very happy that Allan Fung responded to our query on 38 Studios today.